3 seconds. That's all Maria Santos had to decide whether to live as a coward or die with dignity. 3 seconds before the words left her mouth, words no one had ever said to Rafael Moreno's face, and survived. But to understand how a school teacher ended up in a room with the most dangerous man in Central America, you need to know about the night her village died, the choice that damned her soul, and the moment she decided some things are worth dying for. This is that story. Take a second to click on that subscribe to so you don't miss out on the other episodes. San Miguel de las Flores was a village of 800 souls, tucked into a valley so remote that even God seemed to forget about it. Maria had taught there for 11 years mathematics and literature to children whose hands knew field work better than pencils, but whose minds hungered for more. The cartel arrived on a Tuesday in March. Los Escorpiones came in 3 trucks with mounted guns and dead eyes. Their commander, Hector El Vibra Salazar, gathered everyone in the plaza and made the announcement that would change everything. San Miguel now belongs to us. You work for us. You watch for us. Or you become examples. Examples. They made 17-year-old Pablo Gutierrez an example that first week when he tried to run. Made everyone watch. Made sure the lesson stuck. Maria kept teaching because what else could she do? Her daughter, Elena, 16, brilliant, dreaming of medical school, needed routine, needed normalcy, needed to believe the future still existed. But every day, the occupation tightened its grip. Every day, Maria watched her village transform into a prison. Then El Vibra noticed Elena. When El Vibra's men came to invite Elena to dinner at the compound, Maria felt her world fracture. She knew what happened to girls who caught cartel attention. She'd heard the stories from other villages, young women who became property, who vanished into compounds and emerged broken or didn't emerge at all. Maria went to the compound herself, walked up that hill past smirking guards and found El Vibra drinking expensive whiskey on a balcony. "I was expecting your daughter," he said. "My daughter is 16 and studying to be a doctor," Maria replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. "She's a child." El Vibra smiled like a shark. "She's a woman, and I'm a man who gets what he wants." Maria had prepared to beg. Instead, she found herself threatening, telling him she'd expose his operation to every journalist and rival if he touched Elena. It was insane. It was suicide. It worked. "You have fire," El Vibra said, actually laughing. "Fine. Your daughter is off limits. But you owe me now, teacher. And I will collect." 3 weeks later, collection came. It took Maria to meet a man named Senator Reyes' expensive suit. Calculator eyes, the kind of danger that doesn't announce itself. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos of Elena and an acceptance letter to medical school. "We need you to deliver a package to the capital," Reyes said. "Someone clean. Someone no one suspects. Do this, and Elena gets a full scholarship. Refuse, and we revisit the conversation about your daughter." The package was small, innocent-looking. Maria told herself it was just papers, just information, just one compromise to save Elena's future. She was lying to herself. The bus ride to San Salvador took 6 hours. Maria held the padded envelope and felt its weight, not physical weight, but the weight of becoming part of the machine, destroying everything she loved. She delivered it to a law firm in a nice neighborhood. 3 minutes, 1 signature, done. Sitting in a cafe afterward, Maria saw the news. Federal prosecutor Miguel Sandoval had been murdered in his home that morning. He'd been investigating Los Escorpiones' money laundering. He was scheduled to testify before Congress. Maria made it to the bathroom before she threw up. The package, the timing. The law firm that was probably a front. She'd delivered the information that got a man killed. A man with children. a man trying to do the right thing. Maria had traded her soul for Elena's future, and the price was blood. Maria sat in the darkness of her small house that night, watching Elena sleep surrounded by textbooks, and realized she had a choice. Not between good and bad, that choice was already made, but between dying as a coward who enabled evil, or dying as someone who fought back. She chose to fight. For 2 months, Maria became a spy. She photographed trucks and license plates with a camera disguised as a button. She sorted through burned documents for fragments of names and accounts. She befriended young guards and listened to their complaints about shipments and schedules. She memorized everything, wrote it in code in the margins of old books, built a case against Los Escorpiones piece by piece. Then Los Tigres del Norte attacked San Miguel on a Sunday morning. 17 minutes of gunfire. 14 dead, including Father Gomes and young Diego, the guard who'd wanted to be an engineer. Maria covered Elena with her own body and promised God anything if her daughter survived. When the shooting stopped, Maria stood in her destroyed classroom and knew gathering evidence wasn't enough. She needed to do something that would bring immediate, overwhelming attention. Something that would make ignoring San Miguel impossible. She needed to meet Rafael Moreno himself. Maria learned about the meeting through a dead man's phone. Diego had been killed before he could destroy it, and his messages revealed that Rafael Moreno, the head of Los Escorpiones, the man who controlled territories across 3 countries, would be visiting the region for a summit with his commanders. The location: an abandoned luxury resort at Lago Azul, 40 kilometers from San Miguel. This was insane. This was suicide. This was exactly what Maria needed to do. Because if she could document Moreno's presence, if she could gather evidence of all the commanders in one place, if she could confront him directly and make herself visible, enough that killing her would draw attention, she might protect Elena. Dead martyrs make headlines. Headlines make killing their children politically impossible. Maria spent 2 weeks preparing. She documented everything she'd learned and hid copies in 5 locations around San Miguel. She wrote a letter to Elena explaining everything, telling her daughter how much she loved her, making her promise to become the doctor she'd always dreamed of being. Then Maria lied to Elena's face. Teacher training in the capital, back in 4 days. I love you more than you'll ever know. She held her daughter and memorized the feeling, knowing she might never feel it again. Getting into the resort required Maria to become invisible. She studied the supply trucks, learned their routes, and on the day before the summit, hid in the back of a delivery truck among cases of expensive alcohol. 2 hours cramped between boxes, breathing air that smelled like wine and fear. 2 security checkpoints where guards checked the front, but not the back. Then she was inside. Maria found a housekeeping uniform, grabbed a cleaning cart, and disappeared into the infrastructure. Rich criminals don't see the help. She spent the evening documenting everything: security arrangements, who stayed where, the layout of the building. She photographed faces she'd only seen in newspapers, men responsible for thousands of deaths, for disappeared villages, for rivers of cocaine and mountains of bodies. Rafael Moreno arrived at dawn in armored vehicles. He was smaller than Maria expected, 58 years old, gray hair, expensive casual clothes. He looked like someone who'd sell you insurance, not someone who'd ordered the deaths of thousands. That ordinariness made him more terrifying. The summit began at 8 a.m. Maria positioned herself outside the conference room, pretending to clean, recording what she could on Diego's hidden phone. Hours passed. Her feet ached. Her back screamed. But she waited. At noon, they broke for lunch. The commanders filed out. Rafael Moreno walked past with just 2 bodyguards. Maria stepped directly into his path. The bodyguards moved instantly, hands going to weapons. Marino raised a hand, stopping them, his eyes curious. "You're blocking my way," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. Maria looked at this man who'd destroyed her village, who'd killed her neighbors, who'd turned her into a courier of death. She thought about Elena, about Diego, about Father Gomes, about all the people whose lives had been fuel for this man's empire. "My name is Maria Santos," she said clearly. "I'm from San Miguel de las Flores. Your men occupied my village, forced me to carry messages that got a prosecutor killed, turned my home into a war zone. I have evidence of everything: names, dates, routes, crimes. And if anything happens to me, that evidence goes to every journalist, every government official, every rival who would love to know where you sleep." The bodyguards had guns pointed at her head now. Maria ignored them. "You're going to let me walk out of here? You're going to pull your people out of San Miguel? You're going to leave my daughter alone? Because if you don't, I become your enemy. And I promise you, Senator Marino, I'm a much more dangerous enemy than anyone you've faced." Silence. And then Rafael Marino smiled. "Lower your weapons," he told his guards. "To Maria, walk with me." Marino led her to a balcony overlooking the lake. Beautiful up here, blue water, green mountains, the kind of view that made you forget the world had monsters in it. "You have courage," Marino said. "Do you know how many people have threatened me? Thousands. They're all dead. You know why? Because they threatened from weakness. But you're different. You've accepted death. That makes you genuinely dangerous." "Then do what I'm asking," Maria said. "I understand why you'd make a better ally than enemy. Your daughter Elena gets her scholarship. Full ride, anywhere she wants. You get money to retire. San Miguel gets left alone. And you work for me." Maria felt ice in her chest. "Work for you? You infiltrated this summit? You gathered evidence for months. You're smart, methodical, invisible. One job per month, courier, work mostly. In return, you and your daughter are protected forever. Everybody wins, except the people who die because of the work I do," Maria said. "People die anyway. At least this way you choose who survives." Maria looked out at the beautiful lake and imagined what he was offering. Elena in medical school, safe and happy. San Miguel recovering. Herself finally having enough money to stop worrying. All she had to do was become permanently what she'd briefly been, a tool for evil. She thought about Prosecutor Sandoval, about the weight of that package, about how one compromise leads to another until you can't remember who you used to be. Maria turned back to Rafael Marino and looked him directly in the eye. "Fuck you," she said. The bodyguards moved. Marino stopped them, but his smile was gone. "That was stupid." "Probably," Maria agreed. "But I'm done being smart if smart means being complicit. Kill me if you want. But the evidence is already in motion. My contact mails the package if I don't call in 6 hours. So killing me now doesn't save you. It just confirms you murdered a school teacher who said no." Marino studied her for a long moment. "You won't win. Even if your evidence gets out. The system protects people like me, maybe, but you'll have to work harder. You'll have to watch your back, and every time you look over your shoulder, you'll remember the school teacher who wasn't afraid of you." "You really have accepted death," Marino said, sounding almost impressed. "No," Maria corrected. "I've accepted that some things are worth dying for. You can take my life, but you can't make me help you destroy others. That's the one choice you can't take from me." They stood there, school teacher and cartel boss, while the lake sparkled below. Finally, Marino nodded. "Go, leave. But understand this, your daughter becomes my insurance now. Your evidence damages me beyond what I can tolerate," she pays the price. Stay quiet. She stays safe. The choice is yours. Maria's mind raced. This wasn't the outcome she'd planned for. But she was out of moves. If anything happens to Elena, everything goes public immediately, Maria said. I have networks you can't touch. You leave her alone. I'll consider what to do with the evidence. You don't, and I burn your world down. Moreno considered this acceptable. Now get out. Maria walked away through hallways that seemed endless, out into sunlight that felt surreal. She'd confronted Rafael Moreno and survived. But Elena was alive yet forever a hostage. Chapter 10. The final play 16 o'clock to 19 o'clock. 6 months of limbo followed. Elena studied in the city, calling home with stories about classes and the future. San Miguel recovered tentatively, and Maria wrestled with the impossible choice Moreno had left her. Release the evidence and Elena dies. Stay silent and countless others suffer. Then Carmen Flores found her a journalist who'd been investigating Los Escorpiones for 5 years. Carmen had heard rumors about a school teacher who'd confronted Moreno and lived. I've documented 17 villages like San Miguel, Carmen said, when they met in the church. Nobody fought back because everybody had someone they were protecting. But there are cracks in Moreno's power. The right information, released at the right time, could end him. And I can get Elena out of the country first. Maria looked at the bullet holes in the saints' faces, thought about the 17 other villages, all the other Elenas whose futures were hostage to monsters. If we do this, it has to be everything, Maria said. Complete exposure. Everything I've gathered. Then let's burn it all down, Carmen replied. They spent 2 weeks preparing getting Elena safely to Mexico under the guise of a medical training program, compiling all Maria's evidence, creating redundancy across servers and journalists and government agencies, and setting one final trap. Maria sent word she had intelligence about rival cartels valuable, information she'd only delivered to Moreno personally. It was plausible because she'd worked for them before. It was suspicious because she'd also confronted him. Moreno's curiosity won. He agreed to meet at a secure ranch house. Maria wired herself with recording devices. Guards found 2. Missed the one in her shoe, transmitting everything to Carmen, waiting 5 kilometers away. Moreno saw through her lie immediately. You're still recording. This isn't surrender. This is your final play. You're right, Maria said. No point lying now. I'm recording. But this isn't about bringing you down. It's about making sure if I disappear tonight, the world knows who did it. That protects Elena. Even you can't make that heat disappear. Mexican standoff, Moreno said. Exactly. Moreno laughed that same terrifying, genuine laugh. You magnificent, stubborn woman. Then his face changed. But here's what you don't understand. I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. 6 months, maybe 8? He walked closer. So your evidence, your recordings? I don't care anymore. The Empire will survive without me. Someone else will step in. Nothing you do will change that. Maria felt something crack inside her. Then why terrorize San Miguel? Why threaten Elena? Because it mattered then, Moreno said softly. When I thought I had time, but cancer teaches you humility. Everything ends. Even monsters. He nodded to his guards. Let her go. Maria released everything that night. Thousands of documents, recordings, photographs. Carmen's article went live simultaneously. Within hours, it was global news. 3 politicians resigned by morning. Government raids began by afternoon. By evening, Los Escorpiones operations were being dismantled from Colombia to California. Rafael Moreno died 4 months later from the cancer, under armed guard in a private hospital. Maria lives in Geneva now, working with the UN on anti-trafficking initiatives under a new identity. Elena saves lives with Doctors Without Borders. San Miguel slowly rebuilds never what it was, but at least children can play freely again. Carmen won journalism awards and continued documenting more villages, more stories that needed telling. Sometimes Maria thinks about that moment on the balcony at Lago Azul, when she looked at a monster and said 2 words that should have killed, but somehow set her free. She wrote a letter once to other teachers in other villages. "I'm not a hero. I was just a mother who ran out of options. But I learned something important. Monsters want you to believe they're invincible. They're lying. You can't win every battle. But you can stand up. You can say no. You can look evil in the eye and refuse to blink. And sometimes that's enough to change everything." Somewhere Maria hopes another woman is reading those words and finding the courage to fight back. Somewhere she hopes the light is spreading.